Or, oh, I guess we're recording now. That's a pretty good thing. If you've been struggling with holding on to those buyers, forget agency for just a minute. Let's talk about people. Because people, in order for them to really buy in to choosing you as a realtor, they got to trust you. And I think today might be a bit of a miracle for you. All these years that I raised children and flew to different cities, a different city every day, week after week throughout the year, it was because I felt this great sense of purpose, that my purpose was to communicate Floyd Wickman's message to change people's lives. And just because we're doing a Zoom today doesn't mean that passion, oh, sorry, that's not my passion anymore. No, no, no. If you are here with me, whether you're streaming on YouTube, whether you're, watching a recording, or whether you're taking this time, and thank you for your time, the gift of your attention. My number one goal is to make a difference, to be a miracle for you, to be a force of change for you today. And frankly, sometimes miracles are hard to recognize. You know, it reminds me of that guy that was experiencing a flood, right? They were predicting a flood for weeks and then days and then hours. And he knows the water's rising, it's getting up to the edge of his yard. And a neighbor goes by in a speedboat and says, "Hey man, it's gonna flood, your house is gonna flood, you gotta jump in the boat." And the guy says, "Nah, that's all right, God will save me." Well, a few hours later, the water is so high, he goes up to his upper level and he's hanging out the window, and a Coast Guard boat goes by and is with a bullhorn saying, "Any remaining people, we got to evacuate you. Come on, we'll pull up to your house." And he shouts out the window, "No, man, God will save me." And a few hours later, he's climbed onto the roof. That's how high the water has gotten. He's clinging to the chimney, and a helicopter comes down, and they shout out with their microphone, "Sir, we're sending down a cage. Just climb on, hold on tight, and we'll rescue you." And he says, "Never mind, God will save me." Well, he dies, drowns, and he gets up to heaven, and there's God standing there waiting for him. And the man says, "I thought you were going to save me." And he said, "What did you expect? I sent you two boats and a helicopter." And the reason I wanted to start with that story today, not only because it's one of Floyd Wickman's old favorites, but because sometimes when miracles appear, they are not recognized. And so if you've been waiting for a miracle, I'm sending two boats and a helicopter over these next 45 or 50 minutes here to help you create buyer relationship, to create loyalty within that relationship. So let's get started, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm hoping you take some notes. I'd like for you to do an assignment when this webinar is over. Now, I ain't coming to your house to check to see if you did it. So, there's no strikes or, penalties or anything. But if this really is going to make a difference for you, you need to write down some notes. And we've got staff that will send you a few of the slides to kind of remind you, just in case you can't read what you wrote down. But more than what you write down, I want to teach. I want to teach you that. I want you to understand why we do what we do to create buyer loyalty. Okay. So I'm going to share screen, and then sometimes I'll be coming back and you'll see my smiley face again. And here is my first slide, our topic slide. But where I want to go next is this picture of Floyd Wickman. So since this is a live audience, I mean, you are breathing, aren't you? I am breathing. I am live. I'm hoping you would be live as well. Now, the problem with this Zoom Bowls stuff is that we don't get to come off mute, right? So I want you to talk anyway. in the privacy of your own home, no matter what cacophony is going on around you. When I ask you a question, would you answer it? Because as a speaker, teacher, trainer, I know that that's how you learn the best. That's how it cements into your brain. So do me a favor. Hey, do yourself a favor and answer out loud when I ask a question, okay? Oh, you didn't? Your lips didn't move. Especially those of you that have like a photo up. All right, I'm just kidding. All right, thank you for answering. And I saw some nods. So here's Floyd Wickman. Now, if you haven't met him, this is what he looks like. And the cool thing about Floyd Wickman material is that it is timeless. How many of you have heard of Andrew Carnegie? Show of hands. Okay. Andrew Carnegie, um, well, he owned the number one steel producing business in the entire world for a whole bunch of years. He sponsored and created the Carnegie Foundation, which still pays for Sesame Street to be on public TV. But the reason I mention him is he also chose and hired Napoleon Hill to write one of my favorite books. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read it, you got to read it. It's a book that I read every 2 years. And every time I pick it up, I hear and read and see something different. Andrew Carnegie believed that all citizens should be able to become wealthy in this great land of ours. And he wrote out how to do it, how we needed to think to become successful at business. Think and Grow Rich. It was first published in the 30s, and it's still the number one most sold book in the entire world in history, other than the Bible. I mention that because Andrew Carnegie's message is timeless too. And there's another Carnegie, Dale. Remember him? What book did he write? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Timeless. Now that was written a long time ago too, but guess what? If you want to make friends, you look at a stranger in the eye and you smile. And then you say something nice. I mean, is that ever going to go out of style? No. So sometimes I think people think, oh, Floyd Wickman, oh, yeah, he was around a long time ago. Yeah, well, guess what? So was Andrew Carnegie and so was Dale Carnegie, and this stuff is timeless. And that's what we're going to work on today. Uh-oh, my little slide didn't want to advance. That's not a good plan. Okay, Anna, help.
In the bottom left, there should be like a little arrow that pops up. You
Oh,
can
there's
click
an
that
arrow
instead.
because I wanted to use my little remote mouse, but we'll see if it will work now. Selling, according to Floyd Wickman, is a process. Everything that we want to accomplish, create buyer loyalty. It's a process. There's a process for doing it. Now, since you're not going to be with me for a whole 6 hours today, because that's about how long it would take to teach you all of the material that I know about this, I'm not going to share the entire process, but I'm going to give you a really good start and enough direction that you can complete the process. Ooh, my remote mouse worked. Yippee! So, the first thing I want to advise you is that you cannot get buyer loyalty over the phone. You can't get it standing in an open house. You can't get it knocking on a door and talking to someone who lives in an apartment thinking about buying. You gotta have a sit down. Floyd's word for that is face to face. You gotta get face to face. Have a sit down. Now, today we know you can do that via Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something like that. That's fine. Of course, it's not the same, is it? You and I, if we were in a room, I'd be able to see your reaction. I'd be able to speed up or slow down based on what I can see you're absorbing. I would speak a little bit differently to you. I think that same thing is true when you meet with buyers and sellers. So your number one goal in order to apply this material is be aware. We talk to a buyer and oh yeah, well, we're not going to do anything yet. And we think, all right, I'm going to follow up, follow up, follow up. But the truth is, the very first time we speak to that buyer is the best odds of getting face to face. Hey, What would it take for us to just spend a little bit of time? Let me walk you through the process of buying. And then, hey, whatever you decide to do is up to you. But at least you'd have a better understanding of the situation. You'd have a better understanding of the process. You'd have a better understanding of the changes since the last time you bought. What do you say? I mean, I'd be willing to spend some time with you if you would. Would you? I'm kind of booked this week, but I could probably do Saturday morning if it was early enough, or I'm good on Friday afternoon from 2 to 5. Would either of those work for you? Alternative choice closed. Thank you, Floyd. So, number one goal, get face to face. Now, everything else I'm going to tell you is about that face to face because that's where the magic happens, my friends. That's where you're going to discover that you can build that trust. And when we begin a relationship, I think it's a great idea to share what your core values are. What makes you different from everyone else? One thing that makes me different? Well, there's really a lot of things. Are you figuring that out already? Have we been together long enough for you to go, oh, yeah, it's a crazy woman? Um, but our core values. If you've been through a Floyd Wickman program, you learned the core values. We think a presentation probably should start with the core values. This is one of the things that we makes us different than everybody else. And if there's a fit, great. And if there's not, well, then at least we know right up front. So before we go any further, would you mind if I shared my core values with you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer? Everybody operates by a set of values, whether they admit it or not, whether they talk about it or not. I like to share mine because it helps me to communicate to you what kind of person I am, what kind of realtor I am. And if you like that, great. And if you don't, you can tell me right up front, and this can be a very short meeting. Fair enough. All right. Well, here's the first one. My number one goal is to make my client's number one goal my number one goal. To always make my client's number one goal my number one goal. Now, at this point, I don't know what your number one goal is. I could guess, but that's not the same as knowing. Well, once I do know, then my mission is to accomplish that with you. And I'll just tell you why. It's not about the money. It's about making you happy. Because what I've learned is that if I make you happy, if I achieve your number one goal with you, then you'll tell everybody. You'll tell your friends and your family, and I'll have more business. And that makes life even better for my friends and family. And it helps your friends and family. So that's where I always like to start. Number two is to believe, to always live by the get by giving philosophy. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that means that when you give, you receive. Now, you don't give in order to receive. That's called shopping. But when you give and give and give, it comes back to you. Sometimes sideways, sometimes not in the way you expect, but I'm a giver. And I believe that's the best way to go through life, at least for me. Now, there's three more. If you want a copy of them, they're on our website. You can see what they are. But though, well, here, let me finish with this one. The fifth one is to always do what I say I will do, sometimes more, just never less. Now, I want to say that to you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, because when I tell you I'm going to do something, or I'm going to call you, or whatever I say I'm going to do, that means I really am going to do that. To always do what I say I will do, sometimes more, just never less. Do you know anyone that does not live by that core value? See, and that's why I wanted to mention it to you. Now, what it does is it makes me pretty darn careful what I promise to. Got to tell you that. All right, well, let's continue then. And I'm going to ask you, my dear audience, the agents that are present with me today and in the future, as you look at this recording, do you have a listing presentation? So everybody nod your head or say yes out loud. Yes, you do. Of course you do. Your company spent billions of dollars creating a listing presentation. Of course, a lot of us, we didn't like it. So we modified it, we changed it, we made it our own, etc. Well, that's because we believe that when you got something important to say, You create a presentation that keeps you on track and that tells and sells what you're saying. Floyd Wickman taught me a bunch of years ago that people believe what you are saying better when you also show them. In fact, I'll give you a little Floydism. He said, never tell someone something that you can show them. In fact, he said it this way: a great salesman never tells sorry. Oh boy, I got that quote down, don't I? Woo! A great salesman never tells someone something that he can show them. I'll say it one more time coherently. A great salesman never tells someone something she can show them. So when you do your listing presentation, you're telling, but your presentation backs that up with a visual. What I'm saying to you is you need a buyer presentation. And it's not just the buyer agency forms, it's an actual presentation. And that's our objective today, is to make sure you get one of those. Now, when I tell you I want to teach you the polka, then I want you to know I'm not planning on dancing. Da 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 da. That might have even been a little out of tune, not to mention not real graceful, not my strength, but I got to tell you something. I am really, really good at a buyer polka. Now, the objective of a polka is to take control and to eliminate fear and to explain a process. Take control. Who should be in control on every face-to-face appointment, the buyer or you? Thank you for answering. That's the right answer. Let's see. So that was take control. It was explain the process, right? And get their buy-in to the process. How many times have we had someone ask us a question that we're really supposed to cover later? And by covering it early, they're not hearing the answer that they want, or they shut down because they don't like the answer. Polka gives you control so that you cover things in the right order as a process. And then the other thing it does is it eliminates fear, because can there be some apprehension when a buyer is sitting down with a realtor? Yeah. I mean, we're not buying anything today now, honey. I don't care what she says. We're going to go home and think about this. Maybe they talked about that before they got face to face with you. Maybe they said, they got their arms crossed. They're worried you're going to pressure them. Oh, we're not going to be pressured. If we don't like this, we're standing up to leave. See, polka eliminates that fear. So I want to introduce you to the polka, but let me tell you, it's a what is that called? An acronym, right? POCA. It stands for something. Did you realize that? Because it's not spelled like polka dot or polka dance. It stands for preview of coming attractions. Like when you go to the movies and it tells you about the movie that you could see after you watch the main feature, and they want you to sign up for that, right? It gives you kind of a little taste of what's to come. Well, our polka does the same thing. It's a preview of coming attractions. And here's how it goes. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, before we begin, I'd just like to walk you through the actual decision process. Would that be okay? You see, step one is to go through all the rules. Have you been paying attention at all to all the social media stuff over these last 3-4 years about buyer agency? I mean, maybe you just tuned it right out, but we've got all kinds of new rules about the relationship between an agent and a buyer like yourself. Now, to tell you the truth, most of these rules are the ones that I've always lived by, and that here at On Track Realty, we've been implementing. But it turns out there were some people around the nation that weren't following the rules, weren't disclosing who they represented, and weren't being honest. And so, as is pretty typical, there was a big lawsuit that was settled, and the settlement said, from now on, we've got to disclose. So that's the place we're going to begin, because the rules say that before you and I can even have a substantive conversation, I must disclose to you my objective, the choices that you have about buyer agency. Okay, so we're going to do that. It won't take very long, but we'll do that. And I'm not asking for you to make a commitment to me at this time, but I do need to start with disclosing the rules. Fair enough. It's sort of like, it's just a safety measure, if you will, to be honest. Here is step two. I'll need to ask you some questions. I need to understand if we were to work together, I need to understand what you want to buy, what you want in a property. But more important than that is what do you need? What is most important to you? What's not negotiable? Because it'll help us weed out all the properties that don't fit and look at only those that do. So we're not wasting your time. And, it all comes down to the money, right? I want the Taj Mahal, but I can only afford a doghouse. So we've got to cover the numbers as well, because the last thing I'd ever want to do is show you a house that you fall in love with, make an offer to purchase, and then find out you cannot. So we're going to get our P's and Q's taken care of right up front so that that doesn't happen. And I'm sure you don't want that to happen, right? Okay. Now, if we could just push pause for just a minute here, and I'm going to stop share for just a minute here. I'm doing something that I'm just doing it because I'm trained, right? Like I know how to do this. What I'm doing is I'm saying what it is I'm going to do as the step. Then I'm telling them what that means, what that is. And then last, I'm saying the benefit to them. This is why you want me to do this. And I'm asking a tie down question. Make sense? Okay with you? You wouldn't want that to happen, would you? Now that's the process of selling, but that process of selling is within the process of going step by step. Because when we get all done with the 5 steps of the POCA, then what we're going to do is go back and do step 1, which was what? Do you remember? The disclosure. That's right. So you're going to take out your local or company forms that disclose agency, and you're going to go through them like you were trained in other classes. That's not our objective here. We have people from all over North America watching and attending this webinar. So you already have been trained on that. What no one really taught you is where it goes in the process and how to get it, how to sell it. So that's today. Okay. Then when you're done with that, you go to step 2 and you actually do step 2, and then you'll do step 3, etc. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting permission, and I'm doing it by explaining this is the step, this is what it means, here's why you want it, and a tie down. Make sense? Okay with you? How does that sound? In other words, this is not a monologue, unlike this webinar, right? Because you ain't getting to talk. But if we were in a classroom, you would. And by the way, thank you for those of you that are talking to me. I really appreciate it. I think it's part of how we learn. Okay, I'm going to go back to share screen, and we're going to go to step 3. And now I pulled back the curtain a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. What am I doing? I'm explaining. You'll see. I just taught you. I just showed you. Okay, so here is step 3. It's the actual buying process. So, how long ago did you buy your first house? Ah, yeah, things have changed a little bit since then. So, what we're going to do is go. So, if I understand you correctly from meeting you at the open house, this will be the first house that you've bought. Is that correct? Yeah. Well, the process is pretty complicated, and it's got peaks and valleys, it's got things that can trip you up if you don't expect them. And so that's why I like to make that my step 3 so that I can explain where the trouble spots can be and how we might be able to avoid those. and how we might be able to accomplish some of that before we even find the right house. Also, it lets you know a little bit about why a realtor is a good person to add to your buying team. Does that make sense, folks? All right, great. I'm sort of interviewing for the job here, aren't I, today? All right, let's go to step four. And step four, I'm going to specifically talk about my services. What does Mary Palin and On Track Realty bring to the table? Because while we are the same in terms of being real estate agents and realtors, members of the National Association of Realtors, I am different. The things that I have developed and the skills that I have developed and bring to my relationships with the clients I choose to work with, that I commit to work with, can make a difference. So I want to make sure that I point out what some of those are. And if you've talked to any other agents, you might be able to even discern some of that difference. And I think that will help you clarify whether or not you and I are a good fit. Because if you recall, this is the decision process where we decide, I got a decision to make, and so do you. Is there a fit here? Am I going to be able to help you achieve your goals? And then finally, step five, where we make a decision about whether we go forward or not. What is our relationship going to be if we, in fact, do go forward? And, I got to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I think if we do these five steps in order and do them well, then I think we'll both be in a position to know. You're going to know, do I trust Mary? Does she know what she's doing? Is this somebody that I want to work with or not? And either way is okay. And frankly, I am going to know, do I like Scott and Sheila? By the way, I really like Scott and Sheila so far. Um, but I only work with people I like, to tell you the truth. Does this seem like it's the right fit for them? Are they ready to get moving? Are they willing to do the process the way I've explained it to them? Are they going to fight me on every step? And finally, do I want to work with them? Because the truth is, like my core values said, when I make a commitment to something, that's a really big deal. It's a lot of time, money, energy, gas, staff, heartache, headache, problem solving. And I don't take that commitment lightly. So you commit, I commit, or we don't, either way. But the only way we're going to know is if we go through the five steps. Sound okay? And that's my trial close now at the end of the buyer polka. This is part of how I get them to trust me, how I begin to trust them, and lowering the fear, and me being in control, and me controlling this appointment and our relationship going forward. So, do you see how it eliminates fear? I'm not going to railroad you. If I don't like you, I ain't working with you. I said that, didn't I? But in a much more polite way. And I eliminated fear by saying, you can say no to all of this. Isn't this cool? All right. Well, what was step one? The rules. Now, you're from a different state than me. I actually have my license in Minnesota. It's been so much fun to sell real estate these last many years, friends and family and neighbors. And what I love, love, love is using Floyd's material to do it. I follow everything that I'm teaching you, and it still works. And there's new stuff, and that works. So here's step one. I'm going to ask Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when's the last time you bought a house? Has anyone walked you through the process? It's a little more complicated than it used to be, and here in Minnesota, before a licensed agent is allowed to show you a house, there must be a disclosure that the agent shows you, explains to you, and actually has you sign that they did that. If I were to ask you questions about how much you earn or how much you want to spend when you buy without covering that disclosure, I could actually lose my license to do business. Isn't that crazy? So believe me, every realtor worth her salt is doing that. So this is where the decision starts, is explaining those rules, and that's disclosure. This is the first page of the Minnesota buyer agency disclosure. And in Minnesota, there are actually four types of representation. Now, what I'm going to suggest, dear class, can I call you class? It's easier than saying each individual name. What I'm going to suggest to you is you do a visual presentation. What did Floyd say? I already covered this. A great salesman never tells someone something she can show them. That's right. So whether you use slides or whether you take the actual document out, whether you send it to them in advance in an email and ask them to look at it while you're looking at yours, however you, whether you put it in a 3-ring notebook, it doesn't matter to me. It's about showing them. Do you know there's more neuron paths from your eye to your brain than from your ear to the brain? They'll understand and get it better when you show it to them. Now, I'm not going to cover this in detail, but you should. Are there four types of representation in your area? You ought to know. And so, here they are in Minnesota. This is what this is. So, as I go through the form, I would be pointing out that means this, that means that. Okay. So we're going to skip all that. But what I'm calling you to do, did I mention there's an assignment when we're done? I'm calling you to create a visual buyer presentation that starts with your disclosure, explaining it all out. And then, of course, they sign that you did that. No commitment. This is not me. I'm representing you, because at this point we haven't done the 5 steps. I don't even know if I can help you, much less you don't even know if I'm any good at this. So anyway, this paper just says Mary told us about agency. That's all it is. Fair enough? All right. So now we're going to go to step 2, and I want to move this along a little bit because this is a really critical step. I mentioned earlier, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that I needed to ask you a series of questions to determine what you want to buy, more importantly, what you need to buy and what you can afford to buy, so that I'm not showing you the wrong homes and not having you fall in love with the right house only to find you out you can't buy it. So this starts the questions. Would it be okay if I ask you the questions? Thank you. Now, you can put these on a screen, you can type them up. This is one of the slides that we're going to send you. If you send a request or put it in chat, info@floydwickman.com, info at floydwickman.com, or you can put it in the chat, okay? So here's the first one. What have you done so far to find your next home? Okay. Oh, I got to come off share because I got to look at your face when I say this to you. Floyd always taught us that questions should start out easy and get harder and harder. So, like the last question, it should be the scariest one. Don't start with that one. Because here's what happens when you ask an easy question to ask and an easy question to answer, you start building a rhythm. Oh, what have you done so far to find a house to buy? Oh, well, we've looked at Zillow and we stumbled into your open house. And oh, okay. How many open houses have you actually seen? Oh, I don't know, probably 3 or 4. Okay. And which of the two of you is the one that stays up in their pajamas looking at Zillow all night? Oh, I thought it was you, Bill. By the way, is it okay to call you Bill? Okay, thanks. I thought it was you. So, how many houses do you think you've seen on Zillow? Well, I mean, hundreds, thousands? I bet you have, right? Wow. And it's kind of fun at first, isn't it? Are you ready to put that aside now and actually find one? Because you've looked at hundreds or thousands and you haven't found one, right? And that's why we're together. So, I just wanted to know. Okay. And how about you? I mean, is there anything else that you've done that I'm unaware of? Have you met with a banker, anything like that? Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much for that. Now, you notice how I take that one question and I don't go right away to step question number two. I ask question number one and then I probe, right? And then I say, okay, great, thank you. I think I understand. And if you had been watching me do this with a live person, you would have seen me writing down what they said, looking back up. They can tell I'm listening. What does it say when I write something down that someone said? Go ahead, answer out loud. I can't hear you, but answer. What does it say when I'm listening so carefully that I'm writing notes of what they said? Yes. It says, what you said is important, and that's why I want to retain it. And number two, that I'm wanting to remember. I'm really listening to you. I want to remember. So it's a really good active listening skill. In fact, a lot of selling isn't just talking. Talking isn't selling. Uh, Asking questions is selling. Having a process is selling. Listening is selling, and this is a listening process. All right, back to screen share. I hope I'm not making you seasick or anything here. All right, so now we're ready for question number two, right? All right, here's question number two. When would you like to move? Okay, so another pretty easy softball to throw, pretty easy softball to hit back. Well, we're not in any hurry. We want to be in the new house by such and such. Well, we gotta, so you're going to probe, understand their timeline, and you're going to take notes. So here's number three. Now is where it gets interesting. Number three. If you, like me, oh, did you write it down? What is everything you want in a house? Write that down, please. What is everything you want in a house? And I'm going to stop share again already. Okay. What is everything you want in a house? Now, if you're like me, the company that you went to work for gave you a buyer package. This is what you ask every buyer. How many bedrooms do you want? Or maybe you just have done that for the last 22 years. How many bedrooms do you want? This is why I love to have experienced agents at these webinars, at our live training, because, we fall into these patterns. This is the way I've always done it. And I love you for being willing to maybe change, to consider other options. But how many bedrooms do you want is not a good question. How about that? Why? Answer. What do you think the reason is? You don't have to answer out loud, but answer in your own mind. Why isn't it a good question? If you've been selling for a while, someone says, oh, we got to have 3 bedrooms. All right. Have you ever seen those people buy 4? Me too. Have you ever seen those people buy 2 bedrooms and there's room to expand for a third? Maybe it's an unfinished lower level, but it has an egress window. Uh-huh. And you would have missed that perfect house for them and they're forced to buy it from somebody else because you didn't ask the question in the right way. Isn't that cool? So I want you to think about this for a minute. What is everything you want in a house? A few minutes ago, I said Scott and Sheila when I was talking about the buyer. And then I think I changed the buyer's name somewhere along the way. Typical Mary. But anyway, Scott and Sheila, I guess were in my head because of this question. There was a day that they were face to face with me. And I said, what is everything you want in a house at the right time? Ask the question face to face at the right time. And here's what they said. I'm going to just jot it down because it'll help me remember. Okay. They said, oh, we got to have 3 bedrooms. We don't have any kids yet, but we're going to have them. Is it okay if I go fast through this? We want a 2-car garage. We got 2 cars and Minnesota, it snows here. We want a pool because we're hoping that when we do start a family, we can time it so that Sheila will have the summer off and she can lay by the pool with the baby. Clearly people that have never had a baby. We want a fenced yard because we want to get a dog. We want don't write this down. We want acreage, but Mary, we know we can't afford that. So if we could just have like a really large corner lot, uh, that would be great. Yeah. Yeah, that's really what we want. All right. So they answered the question, right? They answered the question. Now I know question number 4 by heart. So instead of going to your slide, I'm just going to tell you what it is, and we'll see the slide in a few minutes. Question number 4 is, which of these features could you live without? Which of these features could you live without? Here's what happened with Scott and Sheila. And I don't know if I invented the end of this part or if Floyd taught it to me. That's the problem when you start doing things the right way, the best way, the Wickman way. It becomes you. You become the technique. You do it your way. You believe, I invented this. No, Floyd did. But anyway, I went to the bottom of the list. Large corner lot. All right, let's just take the word corner for a minute. If you want a corner lot, I will find you the right house on a corner lot. No question about it. I just want to point something out though before I go doing that. I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but there are actually more houses like in the middle of the street than just on the corners. So there could be a really great house that's right for you in the middle of the street, but it's not on the corner. So I just want to be really, really clear, Scott, Sheila, if it's in the middle of the street, no matter how good it is, you don't want to see it. Did I get that right? You know what happened, don't you? You know the reason I'm telling this story, right? Because of course, what did they say? Oh, we'd want to see it. I mean, if it was a great house, I mean, as long as it was a great, we'd want to see it. Ah, okay. Let's take the word large. How large? What is large to you? Large to me who grew up on a farm, a large lot is an acre and a half. Large to me who grew up in an apartment in Manhattan, a large lot means I got grass in the front and grass in the back and a little sliver on each side. Woo! What is large to you? Okay. Okay, well, okay, so that's a pretty standard kind of lot. That, yeah, you know what? You know what? I'm crossing that off because I don't think we need that on there. Here's the next thing. You Now hold on a second. When you cross it off right in front of them, you think they're gonna lunge across the table. They're gonna grab that pen out of your hand. They're gonna say, "Now could you cross it off," and slap your face. And they don't do any of those things. They just sit there like this. Doo, doo, doo. Okay. It's pretty cool. And who is in control? You are. And who is going to help them buy the right house? You are. Because you and I have been taught to narrow. How many bedrooms do you want? How big of a garage do you want? Is a dining room, formal dining room important to you? Is the kitchen important? Do you want a pool? We've been taught to narrow everything down, and then you'd practically have to build them that house in order to find it. What Wickman is teaching us, and I get to be his voice today, is expand it, widen the selection. This is why we say buyers are, you just said it, they are not. Floyd Wickman always said buyers lie because you ask the wrong question at the wrong time. If you ask the right question at the right time, they'll tell you the truth, man. Pretty cool, huh? I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're having as much fun as me. I'm having a blast. All right, here we go. Next up, Scott and Sheila said fence. What kind of dog did you say you have? Oh, you don't have a dog yet. Well, I mean, if you want a fence, I will not show you a house that doesn't have a fence. But I'm just wondering if you'd consider putting in a fence if it was really a great house. And they looked at each other and said, yeah. And I did that. And then I said, pool, now in ground or above ground? Oh, we would take either. Okay. Well, it's Minnesota. Now, listen, I want you to understand, I find you a house with a pool. It's not even a problem. I'm just wondering if it was really a great house. Well, let me put it this way. In Minnesota, about 3 to 4% of all houses have a pool. So I just want you to be really clear here. You are telling me, Mary, We are eliminating 97% of all the properties because we want to pool that much. Now, if that's what you're saying, I'm fine with leaving the pool right on here. And they went, well, honey, we could put in a pool. I mean, later, and it might even be more economical because we would just pay for it once. It would be what we want rather than paying for it in the sale price over a period of 30 years. I'll never forget this. I went like this. Oh, they said two-car garage. So, what if there was a single garage and there was room to expand? Would you consider it? Sheila turned to Scott and looked at him and said, Mary, my husband spent all last summer building a garage for his sister. And if there wasn't any garage, I'm telling you right now, he and his brother in law can build me a garage. You said 3 bedrooms. That's not a problem. Would you consider 4? Yeah. Okay, what about one of those houses? You've been in one, you walk in, you either go up or down. There's 2 bedrooms up, but the lower level is unfinished. And it has room for 2 bedrooms down there, but they're just roughed in. And when the agent and the seller put that house on the market, they cannot call that a 3 or 4 bedroom house. That's a 2 bedroom house because the rooms are only roughed in. Is that something you'd even consider? Yeah, that'd be cool. Now look, crossed it all off. I got to tell you, it only happened one time in my whole career, but it was really empowering because it told me what do they really want and what are they flexible on. Do you see how I'm expanding? Expanding. By the way, they did buy a 2 bedroom with a double attached garage. It did have a above ground pool. It was not a large lot, but it was on the end of a street that was about to be developed. It kind of felt large, and there were railroad tracks behind it. So it seemed even larger. They loved it. It had a little tiny fence around the pool. But I'm telling you, it gets everything in perspective. Oops. Oh, shoot. I just went and forgot to hit share before I went to my slide. So you see, I'm writing down, you're writing down, you already wrote down question number 4. I am sharing. Am I sharing? All right. Oh no, what did I do? I bumped something. Okay.
Yes, you're sharing, but you need to go back to presenter view.
Presenter view. Okay. Um, like this.
Yep, beautiful.
I did it. Oh, okay. Thank you, Anna. All right, here we go. Here's question number 4. You already wrote it down. Which of these features could you live without? Hope you wrote it down. Here's number 5. What kind of monthly payment are you comfortable with? When they answer that question, you answer, you ask question number 6. If you needed blank more, is that even a possibility? So they tell you they got 20 grand. Hey, if you needed an extra $10,000, is that even a possibility? Well, we could get it out of our 401k, but we really don't want to. Which house are they going to like better? The one with 20 grand down or the one with 30 grand down? I'm just saying, the more down payment they got, the most more broad their shopping parameters could be. Would you consider it if it was the right property? Does that make sense? And if they say, oh my God, no, that's all we've got, well, then at least you know that. Don't show them a house that would require more than the 20 grand. Does that make sense? Here's question number 7. How much cash do you have for a purchase? Oh, wait, I said monthly payment. My apologies. I got that a little screwed up as I was getting excited because number 7 and 8 are the same. So you see number 5 and 6 talk about monthly payment. What are you comfortable with? If you needed blank more per month, would you even consider it? And then number 7 is how much cash you have for the down payment if you needed blank more. Again, what are we doing, folks? Expanding the possibilities. Which house are they going to like the most? The one with the right payment and the one that requires the most down payment. It's going to be the nicest kitchen. It's going to be the cleanest. It's going to be the biggest, etc. So if I can expand. Now, what do most agents ask instead? Can you translate these 4 questions into one question that agents ask? Well, I can't hear you. I'm going to assume you did it. And let's go to number 9. Oh, just kidding. Maybe I better cover it in case there's somebody out there that didn't translate these 4 questions into one question. And here's the one question: how much do you want to spend on the next house? You are the one in charge of that, not them. They're in charge of what monthly payment they can afford and are comfortable with. And they're in charge of how much cash they have or can get their hands on. And that determines the price, not some random number. You want more buyer loyalty. Quit showing them the wrong house. We do that, don't we? Well, I'm not going over 600,000. That's it. I'm not going to spend more than 600,000. And you show them everything for 4 months in a row that's 600,000 and less, and they end up buying something for 640. And you could have skipped all that, but you didn't ask the question, the series of 4 questions. Instead, you said, how much do you want to spend? That's the wrong question. Are you with me on this? Is this like cool? I hope there's lightning bolts going around in your head, because this is going to save you so much time and trouble. And there's one more question, and we're nearly done with the webinar. So thanks for hanging in there, y'all. Here's question number 9. If we found the right house today, would you buy it? If we found the right house today, would you buy it? I got to tell you about my cousin, second cousin, once removed, Julianne. I asked this question and she said, no. Mary, I still have, and we have to wait until, and then my retirement, and she explained it all. And here's what I said to her: Julianne, and the worst thing I could ever do today is show you houses, because you might fall in love with one, but you wouldn't buy it. And then when we do, when you are able, when you can buy, everything that you see, you'd be comparing to this, remembering, oh, I think that one was bigger. I think that one was lower priced. I think that one was cleaner. The worst thing I could possibly do is have you fall in love with the house today. So how much longer does this appointment need to last, folks? It's over. So Julianne, here's the deal. You call me and you say, Mary, if you found me the right house today, I'd buy it. That's the day that we go to step 3. Okay? That's the day that we go shopping. Woo! But not until then. I can't wait for you to call and stand up. This appointment is over. I mean, does that make some sense, folks? Because everything is different. If it's not going to be today, all right, don't chicken out and not ask question number 9. Did I say anything at the beginning about the fact that we start with the easy questions to ask and we end with the hard ones? That's the hard one. So don't weenie out on me. Ask question number 9. If we found the right house today, would you folks buy it? And then, of course, step 3 in the buying process is to explain the buying process. And now we go back to our presentation, which we will not be covering today. You should sign up for a class or something. But I think we got you a good start. You know what the buying process is. Make some slides, add some visuals. You can do that and actually gain more loyalty. This is where we started at the beginning of our time together with the POCA, P-O-C-A, preview of coming attractions, the decision process. And what's the decision? The decision is, are we a fit? Will you sign buyer agency and saying, you will work with me? Do I want to sign buyer agency and say, I am committed to you? And that's what the POCA is all about. It's the natural conclusion to a presentation that, like a listing presentation, is sit down face to face, either Zoom or live, preferably live, and using visuals. So I hope I made those points today, and I hope that you're willing to apply what you learned and keep learning. And I want to quick offer you an idea here before we part today, and that is about our coaching program. If you already know Floyd Wickman material, or even if you don't. One of the trickiest parts of all of sales success is consistency, is keeping it going. We can be really, really good. We prospect, prospect, prospect. And then we'll have a whole month where we don't because we got so many transactions and we're busy with closings and we look around a month later and flatline again. And we go through this lifestyle of, hey, I'm flush. I got all kinds of cash. Let's go to dinner. I don't know how I'm going to pay my house payment. Or maybe it's not that severe for you, but you understand peaks and valleys. So our squared coaching solves that. We're starting a new semester on July 3rd. And I wanted to tell you about this because the price is going up and you get the old price. So R stands for responsibility. Squared means the power of a group. 8 people plus a Wickman trained coach, might not be me. I'm pretty full up. We meet once a week, usually on Fridays for 60 minutes. It's live. First, you report your numbers, then everybody talks, and we talk in an organized, orderly fashion to solve problems and share new ideas. That has been $165 a month. I know, for live coaching. It's cheaper than therapy. It's better than therapy because you got people contributing, helping you hit your goal. That's what R squared is. The other agents help you hit your goal. Of course, you got to help them hit their goal. So we tell each other the truth. We confide in each other. And it's been $165 a month for a whole bunch of years. You get grandfathered in. You get to hold the 165 for the rest of your life if you choose to stay in our squared coaching forever. But for everybody who signs up after July 1, no, after June 30th, for everybody who signs up July 1 or later, the price goes to $299 a month. So if it's not for you, maybe you know somebody who's stuck, who knows what to do, but they're so inconsistent, or who doesn't know what to do, and therefore they don't do what they should be doing. So anyway, we can help them. And I had a couple more slides, but I believe we're really sort of out of time here. So I'm going to stop share. And oh, now what do I do? Stop share. Okay, come on. There we go. Hey. I guess I'll finish with ta-da. And I'm telling you that because I really believe we work too hard for what we earn. We work, well, hopefully it's fair. We earn a lot and we work a lot and we help people a lot. But you know, a lot of people work too hard for what they earn. Maybe you don't, but a lot of people do. And it reminds me of that joke, that humorist, that magician who was on a stage and his acts kept getting harder and harder because he had to impress people. And so he got up on for his final act of the night. And he picked an audience member, said, come on up to the stage. This is a sledgehammer. I want you to hit me in the head with it. And the audience participants said, oh my God, I'm not going to hit you in the head with a sledgehammer. He said, nope, go ahead. It's a magic trick. I know how to handle this. Go ahead, hit me in the head. Go on, go on. And so he does. And the magician falls down and doesn't get up and doesn't get up. And one by one, the audience either leaves because, oh my God, we're at the scene of a murder, or they wait for 911 to get there. Emergency crew haul him out on a stretcher. Well, the magician wakes up 4 months later. He's fine. Guess what the first thing he said was? Ta-da! Now that is working too hard for what you earn. So I don't want that to happen to you. And my call to action once again is find out more about R squared coaching, get yourself Wickmanized, and apply what you learned today. Create an advanced buyer presentation that includes the disclosure at the end, the form for agency that you want them to sign, and show and sell in the middle. Thank you all for being here. God bless you.
Thanks,
Oh.
Mary. Thanks, everyone.